Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Vintage Books. I am our Vintage Books Live. I'm Christy Peterson. We haven't done this in a while. I don't remember how to do it. Tonight, I'm really excited to have the editors and some of the contributors to the Muddy Ducks Guide to the Weird Northwest, which is part game book, part adventure guide, part fiction anthology. We'll have everybody that's involved in it explain it a little bit more, but I'm just super excited. We got our copies yesterday at the store, and it's just the right kind of book for this upcoming year. I'm hoping that it's a good Christmas present. Hint, hint. But yeah, so let's go ahead. I'm going to start with Eric and Francis. I'm just curious, like, where did the idea for this come from? Obviously, Frances was telling me right before we started that they've got some other game type books going, but I'm curious how the idea of the marriage of sort of local guidebook and game got started.
Eric, you want to go first?
Sure. So Francis has been doing the series on ancient games, and I was giving her a hard time about another project that she did that I didn't get a chance to participate in, and I was like, Francis, when are we going to work together? And she said, actually, I want to do another book in the series for ancient games, and I'm kind of thinking it'll be based upon the royal game of the goose, which is a medieval game. And she said, but I think I kind of want to orient it around the Pacific Northwest. And then we went back and forth a little bit. And I think we ended up with, a guide, pretty quickly. I think Francis had some of the, Francis had I think the biggest pieces in place. And then I kind of came in and said, well, what if we style it this way? And what if we call it this way? And these are some of the folks that I would like to invite. And these are some of the ways that I'd like to approach it. So yeah, I think that's our origin story. I do remember there was one, there were a couple of iterations where, Francis was like, well, let's think about this like Pokemon Go and kind of create a book where it encourages you to go out into the world and visit the locations that are part of the book. And then I said, I like that. But also maybe let's think about it kind of like a McMiniman's passport, which is also a very Northwest concept. So, just a lot of back and forth. And then we ended up with the Muddy Goose Guide.
Yeah, and I would say that. So the first one, Winding Paths, was it's basically an escape book. So if you think about the concept of an escape room, the mechanic in Winding Paths is you get sucked in and you have to read your way out. It's a non-linear read if you choose your way out of the book. It's a choose your next story mechanic, and there's little puzzles in there as well. But for Goose, I wanted it to be the opposite. I wanted the book to take you outside of the stories and the world inside, so that it essentially encouraged you to go and explore the places that have inspired the writers and the poets to write about the location. It's not always clear what the location is, and so you have to guess maybe. And there that might be a little challenge in the book. And the Royal Game of which is Winding Path, and the Royal Game of Goose, they're games that have been played, since the beginning of mankind. Is from Mesopotamia. Goose is like the earliest, I think, is like a in the 1400s. That copy is in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. And what I really wanted to show through my press in this series is that we, as a community and cultures across everywhere, we've been playing games from the very beginning of time. And that's how we interact. That's how we learn to get along with each other. That's how we gamble. Some of these games are made for divination to figure out if you're gonna, fight a bear the next day. So it's really about building community through gaming and storytelling. And I think that's what all of these anthologies are about. And with Goose, we're inviting people, the readers, to go on these adventures with us at the same time.
I think you might be muted, Christy.
There we go. Sorry. I knew that was going to happen because I'm like, I don't want to cough on anybody. So then I'm going to forget to unmute every single time. I was curious whether you like came up with a list of ideas and then assigned them out, or did you have people help come up, the writers help come with some of the ideas? Like, did they suggest them or did you already have that in mind?
So we did an open submissions call. I there was a list of Pacific Northwest authors that we suspected, would be able to get what we were going for. So I did stack the deck a little bit. I went to some people in advance and said, "Hey, I'd like you to contribute." Sometimes they would tell me. I would say each story has to have a unique Pacific Northwest location, and so if somebody said, "Hey, I want to do the Fremont Troll," can you dibs that for me? For if it was somebody that I was inviting, I would kind of bear that in mind. It didn't end up being a problem at all. Like people didn't really overlap. There were a couple of occasions where we had a handful of Portland locations, and I remember going to some authors and saying like, well, we might have to nudge you. Like Remy Nakamura, one of our contributors, has got a location that's the Witch's Castle, and there's another location which is Forest Park, and there's another location which is the Rose Garden. And I decided that those are unique enough locations that they could all kind of coexist together. So it wasn't really an issue. It didn't end up really being an issue, but I let the contributors pick a location. I definitely encouraged people to think outside of the Portland metro and the Seattle metro area. I really wanted us to have a diversity of locations. So there were a couple of authors that I said, I know you can write great stuff about Portland or Seattle. Could you maybe write like Jesse Quack? I specifically requested, I know you're from a rural part of Eastern Washington. I want you to bring that rural Eastern Washington magic. I want you to bring this thing that nobody else is going to write about. Or there were a couple of other authors where I would say like, hey, I need a UO story. So I'd really like to get a University of Oregon story because I kind of feel like I went to the University of Oregon. That's kind of important to my Northwest identity. Or, a couple of other locations that I kind of, I I made sure that somebody picked. But for the most part, I encouraged people. We asked them, I wanted it to be a quest themed story. So, and I told them that I wanted it to be, I think my language was like, kind of spooky-ish, but not necessarily like high fantasy or horror. Just I kind of wanted it to have kind of a spooky kind of woodlandy vibe, and I think everybody picked up on that. Certainly, I got a lot of great submissions, and yeah, so that's kind of the. That was kind of the mad genius. Francis and I would talk about like making sure that we divided Oregon and Washington and stuff like that, but
And I will say this because sometimes people, do geocaching and then they like
Mhm.
wander off a cliff. These are safe locations.
yeah.
So we
Yeah,
made
that's a good
sure
idea.
we made sure that the locations were accessible. Like I mean, in the sense of like you get there, but you're not hanging off of a ledge and then just followed this there. So they're safe in that sense, like you can reach them. And that was important for me because I was worried that, this would be this like treasure hunt map and then like five people would go missing and then what would we do? We just created like new lore. Like this is
Yeah. I
so
mean,
they're
that
safe
could become a
locations.
whole thing in and of itself.
That's the
Yeah,
sequel.
yeah, how we remembered. Lost it.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, I'm going to jump over to the authors now. And Phoenix, I know you might have to jump out early, so if you don't mind going first, that would be lovely. Um, I'm looking at all my hi, sorry. I'm looking at all my name tags because I don't know who's who. But if you could just introduce your story and the I don't let's see. Let's actually, why don't you introduce the story, but don't say where it is from yet? And I guess the only one that doesn't know, so I can see if I can guess it. That's probably a bad pool, but just for fun, we can just see from the story, and then I was gonna ask you like what drew you to that location and where did sort of the inspiration for the story come from? And that's pretty much where I'm going to go for everybody's, just so you're kind of prepared ahead of time. But so I made Phoenix go first. That might not be good, but
Yeah, I'm happy to. I'm Phoenix Bourgeois. So my story might be a little, well, I just won't read my full title because the location is in the title of my piece.
okay, perfect.
The title of my piece is A Mushroom Haunting in Somewhere. Um, yeah, and I was inspired to write this piece because this will be a hint to the location. I went to school in Southern Oregon University, and this is a location that I went to often. And I was mostly just inspired by the prompts. I love writing to a theme. It's really fun to see what comes out. And yeah, I have this little brother sister story that's a little spooky, a little fantastic, and was a lot of fun to write.
Did you have a passage that you were going to read?
Yeah, I'll read a little piece.
Okay.
Willow, you have to wake up. The wind howled. Atlas shook his younger sister. It's early, Willow moaned, shoving his arm away. The purple streaks in her hair glowed neon in the dappled streetlight that streamed through the cracked window shield. The rhythmic slap of sodden leaves broke the steady patter of raindrops. It was a good morning for hunting. Atlas drained the last splash of dark roast from his thermos and rummaged through the back seat of the hatchback, tossing items into the trunk or tucking them into his knapsack. A knobby half-melted a knobby half-melted honeycomb candle, plant-based jerky, a pocket knife, and a compass. A vial of Sayusla dirt and an excavation brush. A satchel of dried herbs and a beat-up cassette player. What, no room for the records? Willow asked, rubbing her eyes. Good, you're up, Atlas said. He tossed a raincoat onto her lap. Hurry up and get ready. We'll miss our window. Willow pulled on her boots with a yawn. No coffee, she complained. It'll stunt your growth. Come on. A surge of nervous energy flowed through Atlas. He stepped into the rain, flicking his flashlight to life as Willow followed suit. She wore a baggy sweatshirt with a faded bookstore logo over patterned leggings and an oversized Cannon Beach baseball cap that she had stolen from him. The trees cast wind-blown shadows on the trailhead, vibrant fall leaves muted in a cloak of night. A gust of misty air followed them under the canopy of the trees, smelling of earthy, damp soil. Their twin flashlights swayed across the forested canyonland. And I'll stop there. Oh, you might be muted.
See, I knew that was going to happen. I'm very bad at that. I said I was typing. We got a few people watching, so I'm typing to the crowd and saying that they can ask questions. So I'll keep an eye on that and pop in if anybody has any questions. But like when you said you went to school in Southern Oregon, like my first guess was, oh, it's got to be somewhere in Ashland. So then I thought of Lithia Park, but I don't know. So
Yeah, Lithia
yay!
Park. Yeah, great guess.
That's the big naturey area I know of there. So
Yeah, and I hope this does inspire someone to go check it out because it's absolutely gorgeous.
yeah, yeah. I don't really have a super hardcore plan about who wants to go next. Mark, your head is right by mine. Do you want to go next?
Sure, yeah. So my story, so I had a couple of extra caveats that came from me. One was turn it in on time, and B, make it short. Um, so I endeavored to meet both those, and somehow ended up with the longest title in the world. The title does not give it away, but I fear that the location is given away in the first paragraph, which is okay.
That's okay.
The puzzle I'll leave to the readers is how much of this is true and how much of this did I make up.
Ah.
A letter found among records recovered from a historical mystery capsule opened on the 100th anniversary of the burial in Astoria, Oregon, with an asterisk, which we'll gloss over. July 19th, 1924. Dear Mr. Houdini, guided by the remit of your outstanding arrangement with my employer, the Pinkerton Detective Agency, I am writing to inform you of the matter regarding a mysterious cargo carried by the British ship, the Peter Iredale, which ran aground on the Oregon coast on the night of October 25th in the year 1906. The Peter Iredale was a 285-foot, four-masted, steel-hulled bark, and it belonged to a fleet managed by the ship's namesake out of Liverpool, England. On its last journey, which began on September 26, 1906, in Salina Cruz, Mexico, the Peter Iredale was listed as carrying 1,000 tons of ballast, slightly less than half of its available tonnage, and 27 crew. On the aforementioned night, shortly after sighting the Tillamook Rock Lighthouse, the ship altered course to enter the mouth of the Columbia River, where, afouled by mist and tide, it was pushed shoreward by heavy winds. Captain H. Lawrence responded in a manner befitting his commission, a manner vetted by the British Vice Consulate during an inquiry in November of that year, but his efforts to jibe away from shore were confounded by a sudden squall. The ship grounded on a nearby beach formed by sedimentary deposits from the Columbia River. The crew were rescued by the use of a breeches buoy, along with 2 stowaways. As the crew of the Peter Iredale and the members of the inquiry board were all British nationals, I had little hope any of them would still be in the Pacific Northwest. To my surprise, however, I managed to track down 3 of the crew, one in Seattle, Washington, and the other 2 in Portland, Oregon. I spoke to each man separately, and each displayed a reticence to recall the events of that night in 1906, a reticence that I could not fully attribute to an impassioned devotion to their former captain. These interviews provided details that ran counter to the official record and which I wanted to investigate more fully before presenting them in a report. Following these interviews, I visited the wreck of the Peter Iredale. It is located on Clatsop Sands, a stretch of land not far from the township of Astoria, Oregon, and the shallowness of the water along this stretch of beach makes salvage from the ocean overly complicated. Realizing the allure of actually visiting a wrecked ship and the attendant increase in tourist revenue in regards to this activity, local authorities have made little effort to remove the ship. As it has been nearly 20 years since the ship grounded, much of the wooden structure of the Peter Iredale has been compromised by the unforgiving weather of the Oregon coast. Though I did attempt to board the wreck, going so far as to hire a local fisherman to facilitate and guide my efforts, I was unable to spend any measurable time aboard the ship, which frustrated my efforts to verify and illuminate the contradictory details gleaned through my interviews with the crew of the Peter Iredale. So I'm going to skip ahead for a second, and just to tease you. So, in 1902 and again in 1905, the Swiss physician, photographer, and mountaineer Jules Jacques Guillemond attempted to scale K2, one of the mountains in the Himalayas. He was accompanied on both of those expeditions by a British mountaineer named Aleister Crowley, who later became more widely known as a ceremonial musician and occultist. I, of course, trust you need no further background on this man, as I'm sure his claims of magic are very much within the scope of your ongoing efforts to combat fraudulence and chicanery in manners spiritual and esoteric. Both of these expeditions were failures. The first was beset with mishaps and medical conditions exacerbated by environmental conditions. The second was unsuccessful due to extensive conflicts between Jacques Guillemond and Crowley as to the pace, purpose, and direction of the expeditions. Jacques Guillemond, it would appear, was invested in scaling the mountain. Crowley, on the other hand, whether due to some lingering effects of the illness and snow blindness suffered on a previous expedition, seems to have been searching for something. The 1905 expedition met with tragedy when several members of the company were killed in an unexpected avalanche, after which Crowley unexpectedly left the expedition. And I will leave you with that and have you wonder how it all comes together.
Very long title, Mark.
And I know.
That's great. No, that one's fun because my family and I have spent a lot of time at the Peter Iredale, and so it's interesting to think about it when it hadn't been very long since it happened versus now when it's just sort of this
I know it's just a sort of
leftover skeleton. And
thing out
yeah,
sticking out of the water.
yeah.
But
So
yes,
is there a reason, like, did you pick that one up because it needed to be, or is there a reason that you were drawn to that one?
I think I have not actually visited it, and I don't think I've ever. I think I was circling the list of things, and I went, that one looks like fun. Um, and it was, especially when I went into the research weeds. So,
Did you actually then at that point travel over there to see it and all of that?
why, of course.
Good. You would almost have to. So were you able to do research like at the local I don't know if they had what they have at the Maritime Museum or one of the other historical groups in Astoria.
I'm sure that the historical group in the story would be appalled at what I have done with the historical record. So, it's
I
probably
mean, that's
best I
science
didn't.
fiction and not nonfiction, right?
I plugged in some holes in the historical record, and I don't necessarily think they would approve.
Well, that's okay.
Well, they
Kate,
might. Who
Kate,
knows?
Kate is bugging me to ask you more about your research. So.
Well, you have to read the whole story to really get that to really understand the
Yeah, yeah.
together. So,
Well, it's two intriguing threads that I'm like, well, how do those all relate? So that's very fun. All right, if we want to just go right down, this is all my view, of course, and it could all be different for everybody else. But Catherine, would you like to go next?
Sure thing. All right, I'm gonna omit a word from my title because it does give the location away. And
Okay.
of course, my excerpt actually doesn't get my characters yet to where they're going. So I'll just tell you at the end. How's that?
That's okay. No worries. Yeah, because I didn't spring that on you until the very last minute, so that's totally fine.
No worries. So this is from my story, The Queen of All Something, to be filled in soon. And my character has just gotten on the MAX train at night, the light rail from the Portland airport. It's late, and he seems to have the whole place to himself. And I had the whole place to myself. That is, until the announcement came that the doors were closing. Footsteps pattered into the train car right as the doors slid shut. I glanced back. A crouching figure shuffled up the aisle, closer and closer to my row. Scraggly hair swung across his face. He clutched a brown paper bag for dear life. Its crinkling grew louder as he approached. We were alone in the car, probably this whole train, yet he slumped down directly across from me into the aisle seat to my left. My shoulders stiffened against the hard seat back. He'd probably have tried sitting next to me if it weren't for my backpack. I knew I could say something or get up and move elsewhere, but that would feel so rude. The man placed his paper bag on his lap. A savory scent emanated from it. Not unpleasant, surprisingly enough. When had I last eaten? I'd forgotten to fill my water bottle in the airport. The train lurched forward, making me sway in my seat, caught between jet lag, hunger, and thirst. I just wanted to get to my parents' house. The man hunched over his noisy bag and pulled out a chunk of what appeared to be rotisserie chicken. He ate it and licked his fingers. "We are thirsty," he croaked. Great, he was talking aloud and using the royal we. "We too," he said, pointing back and forth between himself and me. "We are thirsty. I know where we can quench our thirst on this night." I scooched as far away from him as I could. It wasn't much. "Sir, I'm not sure what you—" "Bly eye." He faced me and pointed to his left eye, bloodshot and filmy. The other looked starkly clear in comparison, almost too white. "My name is Bly eye." I couldn't stop staring. It was less about the differences between his eyes and more about their shared intensity, like gazing into the sun when you know you shouldn't. My hip pressed into the train's cold, firm wall. He seemed to be waiting for something, probably my name. "I'm Gary." "Gary, Gary, quite contrary," he blurted, then erupted with such laughter that I banged my shoulder against the window. "Riding the train so late. No one came for you, Gary?" "They couldn't pick me up this late." "No one could pick me either," he said. "Up," I corrected without thinking. "Pick you up." Maybe that was bad-mannered of me. He smirked and stuffed more chicken into his mouth. Then he tore off a scrap of the paper bag and used it like a napkin. It seemed to leave more grease on his lips than he'd started with. I see you like carnivorous plants, he said. I'm going to cut it off there, but I will say it's called the Queen of All Roses. And there was a reference earlier to the rose garden, so spoiler alert.
That's great. Thank you. Did you I forgot well, I guess I did ask Mark this. Sorry. My brain is a little cold fuzzy. Um did you get to pick the rose garden, or is that something that Eric was like, I need someone to do this?
I did get to pick it,
That's
and
great.
it was exciting for me because it's a place that's special to me. I'm from Beaverton, Oregon, and so I grew up. My family would take picnics out there at the amphitheater. We would bring out of town guests there, so it's got this really special place in my memory. And the kind of the there's a cryptid that I created for, and I was actually writing a poem, and I had already written the poem. It hasn't been published anywhere yet, but I was thinking about it. And as I was thinking about the rose garden, I was like, I really like my cryptid. I think I'm going to play with that a little bit more. So
Oh,
it was
fun.
almost like a sequel or a prequel to
That's
something.
great. Yeah. Thank you. Camden, do you want to go next?
Sure, I can. Although I should warn you that I also have a cold, so I'm gonna be pretty.
We'll just be miserable together.
I know, I've been trying to chug tea, but it's really hard to
I know, and
offset
I'm
it.
like trying to hide all my paraphernalia everywhere.
Yeah.
Tissues.
My title is also a spoiler,
That's
so
okay. That's okay.
it's
Don't worry.
something the game because I when I submitted to this, I love board games, so I was like, I'm gonna submit a board game story.
Oh,
So
fun. I love it.
I can short a show, but it's like the different components of the
Oh,
game.
that's a great idea. I love
So I'm
that.
going to skip past the components because I don't know if it's necessary really. We'll just read the game setup because that's important to read before any game. I also do not read instructions of games, so this I had to do a lot of research for this.
I'm glad we're not alone. I never do either.
I know. Okay. I spoil the title right in the beginning, so you will just know where it is. It's fine. Game setup. Go to Green Lake right before sunset. Tell yourself you'll finish before the sun goes down. Park in the lot everybody knows about. Walk past the fields of empty soccer nets. Walk down the gravel road, past the smaller parking lot near the stadium. Wonder how a stadium can look like it's floating on water. Wonder why you didn't pick the closer parking lot. Hope that you can find courage on this walk. Keep walking. Find the beginning, or your beginning, of the trail. Green Lake is a circle. It has no start and no end. It starts only when you want and ends only when you want. Relish in this choice. Try not to think about how it doesn't actually end or start, only continue forever. Try not to think about how it is endless as your worries. Try not to think about the thing that has been following you since you started this journey, waiting for you to look back. Your therapist recommended a walk in nature, and so you must walk. When you've made it to the start or the end or the endless beginning, proceed to playing the game. And then it's like a choose your own adventure, sort of. I don't know. But I'm going to do just that much because I can hear my voice cutting out. I think you're muted again.
Sorry. That's 3. In the space of you mentioned that it's kind of a choose your own adventure, but in the space of a short story, like how did you choose to handle that? Because I love that idea, but it's got to be a challenge when you don't have like the full on, like a whole, at least a novella type length.
Yeah, I found because I'm using the game setup, it's almost broken into different kinds of turns, different things you can encounter on Green Lake. So there's 3 different endings based on what you encounter.
Oh, fun.
So you could encounter, for instance, the bathrooms, which is everywhere, or a long stretch, or the Seattle Public Theater, or the community center, and each of those sort of lead to a different thing. So my idea, especially leading with the fact that people might go out and walk around, they might be reading and then be like, oh, I see that's the theater right there. I'll read this section right now, and then that will lead to the next part.
Oh, I love
And
that. That's very cool.
hopefully, like, choose your adventure as you walk. The walk takes about an hour, so it feels like it would be expansive enough that you could find little things as you go through. Was
What
the idea.
what gave you what drew you to doing it Green Lake? Is that a personal connection or just somewhere you wanted to hang out for a while?
I mean, I love Green Lake. When I first moved to Seattle, it was the lake I would walk on every weekend. This was COVID, so everything was closed down. So going outside and doing what you can was really helpful and being with friends. So it shares a special place in my heart. And then being able
Yeah,
to mesh it with a board game, I was like, Eric, you've made this call for me
that's
because I
fun.
love board
Yeah,
games. So I was like, this is it. I'm going to do all of it
right.
in one. Yeah.
That's very cool. It's interesting because I think a lot of us probably have like outside places that sort of got us through COVID. And so it's fun to
Yes,
see that
for
like
sure.
come to a book. So let's see. Should we jump down to Margot?
Sure. Mine doesn't overtly give it away in the title. It does give it away in the first sentence, though.
That's okay. Like I said,
My
that was spur of the
story,
moment, so it's okay.
my story is The Goat Waits for No One. Dude, did you know that the garbage goat is actually a portal? Patrick asked, shoving a fistful of fries into his mouth. The what? I paused in the booth we were sitting in, a cheeseburger hovering in my hand. The garbage goat. It's this sculpture downtown with a vacuum in its mouth. You can feed it trash. I frowned. Why would you want to do that? Because it's cool, Patrick insisted. A nun welded it. But that's not the point. If you feed yourself to the statue instead of garbage, it'll like teleport you to the bottom of the falls. Come on, man, cut it out. No, I'm serious, Patrick insisted, biting into his own burger. Only a handful of select people know about it. Then how do you know? I asked. I flicked a packet of ketchup at him. You're hardly select. He dodged the airborne projectile. Stephen told me. Stephen, I scoffed. He lies about everything. I've known Stephen since kindergarten. He's a good guy. Patrick pointed a fry at me for emphasis. And he showed us those steam tunnels under campus that you didn't think existed, remember? He wasn't lying about that. How could I forget? I asked dryly. A maintenance worker had discovered the open entrance and accidentally locked us in for hours before anyone heard us yelling for help. I chewed on my burger, staring out the restaurant's window at the sparse late night traffic cruising down the street. Despite the terror of our lock in, I did have to hand it to Stephen. He had a knack for finding interesting places no one else knew about. Just last weekend, he'd taken us to a supposedly haunted staircase set in the hillside of a local cemetery. And while we didn't see any ghosts, we did get a good laugh when Stephen lost his footing and tumbled down the stairs. So, what's at the bottom of the falls? I asked. Patrick leaned forward, wiping the grease off his fingers on a wad of napkins. An exclusive nightclub, he murmured. It's built into the bottom of the Monroe Street Bridge. They have secret raves there every weekend. I snorted and inhaled the soda I was sipping, the carbonation tingling deep in my nose. Of course Patrick wanted to go to a rave. So the goat like has a pneumatic tube system, I asked, for people? No, man, it's a portal, he said. It teleports you. Come on, stop messing with me, I said. I'm not that gullible. I'll prove it to you, Patrick said, crinkling up his burger wrapper into a tight ball. Stephen wouldn't lie to me. Let's go. He stood up and began piling our trash onto the tray our food came on. Right now? I asked. Yeah, why not? You got anything better to do? I chewed on my straw and stared at the Formica tabletop, pretending like I was thinking it through. In reality, it was just another uneventful weekend for me. I had nothing planned, which was why Patrick and I had driven into Spokane from our nearby college town to grab a bag of burgers and do some late night longboarding. He arched an eyebrow at me. I bet Amanda would think you're the coolest guy in the dorm if we found it and brought her and Sammy. My face reddened and I shoved the remainder of my meal onto the tray. I still didn't really believe him, but I was willing to watch him make a fool of himself. I certainly seen Stephen do it enough times. And if there was truly something remarkable about the statue, Amanda would definitely be impressed. It didn't seem like there was a downside. Fine, I'm in, I said, grabbing my own board from the sticky floor. And I will leave it there.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So obviously Spokane somewhere. So is there really a goat statue?
There is, yeah, it's
Oh,
in
that's so
Riverfront
cool.
Park in the downtown area. And it really does have a vacuum in the mouth, and it has a button, and you can feed trash to it.
Great. That's so funny. I haven't been to that park in such a long time. I don't, this probably wasn't there when I was there last, but that is so cool. So is that a connection for you? Is that one that you picked?
Yeah, I'm from that side of the state, and I spent a lot of time at Riverfront Park when I was in college, just hanging out with my friends, riding our longboards around and just kind of bumming around. And so I kind of wanted to write something that would kind of capture
That's
that
really
feeling.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. It's good to have the East Side be represented. So I'm writing Spokane on my sheet. But Remy, do you want to go next? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to ask this before.
Okay.
Somebody asked in the chat asks, is it an actual trash can that's serviced by the city? Like the vacuum thing sucking up the trash?
I don't actually know. I'm assuming somebody has to
Yeah,
empty
yeah. I would
it.
think so. That's funny. All right, Remy, think if you could go.
I'd worry about what's in that goat.
Yeah.
Um, Hi, yeah. So I'm gonna read from the middle of my story. So I wanted to provide a little bit of context. Um, I think I I'm gonna go ahead and mention the place.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's totally
Um,
fine.
my story is called Dreams in the Witch's House, actually Castle. What is it? Witch's Castle. Sorry. I should know the title of my own story. Um, the main character's name is Frank Watanabe. He grows up in Portland's Japantown in the 1930s with his grandma, his bachan. But they, are forced to go to the Minidoka concentration camp during the war. He enlists as a World War II in the army. And like many, he chooses not to return to Portland after the war. So in this story, he spent almost 3 decades away from Portland and is returning in the late 60s to fulfill a request by his grandma to place one particular unit of her remains in Forest Park, in their special place in Forest Park. And it's called the Buddha bone, the Nodobotoke, which is the second cervical vertebrae, I think. Anyhow, so he's carrying around a bone, and he's going to Forest Park. Bachan and I used to take the trolley up Thurman to Balch Creek and Maclay Park, but the streetcar lines were dismantled 20 years ago. I decide that walking is somehow less painful than asking for a bus schedule. The capricious sun banished yesterday's cloud cover. Overnight, the Willamette Valley has decided to skip spring altogether. Even with my coat off, my shirts are soaked through. I remember Nob Hill being much less uphill. To be fair, that was on the far side of years of beers and katsukuris, and 3,000 or 4,000 packs of Lucky Strikes. Finally, I descend from the neighborhood into the small canyon, following the well-worn trail that winds through the forest along Balch Creek. The sound of running water precipitates a cascade of memories. Bachan and I walked this path almost every Sunday before the war. We'd always stop at her special tree, a towering Douglas fir, with bark so deeply furrowed you felt like you could squeeze into it. She would pray and leave offerings in a hollow between its roots. Then we'd make our way up to the sturdy rest shelter, where she'd use the toilet and we'd sit and eat onigiri wrapped in pickled mustard greens. I brought my sketchbook and a travel palette of watercolors, but I hesitate. How can I capture even a hint of this beauty? A million shades of spring, the textures of sharp ferns, dappled sunlight, twisting ivy, branching maples, and tall trunks dusted with lichen patches, the color of copper patina. There are no straight lines. Naked alders reach for the sky in zigs and zags, every knee and elbow a bulbous mass of moss, and even the tallest firs tilt in this direction or that like lean towers of Pisa. Streams randomly spring from the steep hillsides, and there are entire walls of dripping moss and ferns. It is a frozen paroxysm of 1,000 greens, a slow explosion of luxuriant life. I breathe in and out and in again. The grassy, earthy, damp air is my mantra. Bachan, I'm a fool for waiting. Sorry I took so long. I follow the trail with renewed vigor, upward and deeper into the cathedral canopy, bolstered by nature's own flying buttresses. This is where Bachan belongs, and where I belong, for now. I haven't felt this close to her since her death. I pass between two colossal pillars, one a red cedar, one a Doug fir. They form a natural torii gate and remind me of the long chopsticks, one wood and one bamboo, that I held when we picked and passed the bones from Bachan's cremated remains to her cousin and then into the urn. This means I'm close. Less than a minute's stroll. At a slight bend in the creek, the Grand Dame in a close triumvirate of forest matriarchs. I almost run the last bit. But it's not there. Her tree is gone. Now stop there.
Now that's just mean.
Buy the book.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Is that was that a tree that you have a connection to before all of this? I am making notes because the Witch's Tower is not something I had heard of before. So,
Yeah, it's a great spot. It's walkable. It's easy to access. Families will go up to it, and it's in this deep kind of canyon, but still like easy to get to from downtown Portland. Heights. But there are a lot of beautiful Douglas fir trees there. They say that I think one of the biggest Douglas firs in this area of Oregon might be in that valley. But until I wrote this, actually, I didn't have a favorite, but now I do.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. All right, Daniel, I don't know if you're next on your screen, but you're next on my screen. So
No, I'm happy to. I'm gonna give a little opening for the place because it is not mentioned and won't come up. So I was really excited when I talked to Eric that Mount Rainier was still available. And so I picked Paradise Inn. I've stayed there multiple times. I adore being up there. It's amazing to be able to drive up into the snow in July. In fact, actually, when we had the heat dome and it was 110, 115 degrees in Portland, we happened to have booked a room up there. And so we were driving up there, and it was only when you got up to the snow level that it was under 80 degrees. But the idea of it being like 80 degrees out and just the snow was melting so fast that like your sneakers were soaked. And but thank God we had somewhere to be. It was wonderful. So anyway, the opening of the story, like I said, doesn't take place there, but as soon as I finish, we're there. So my story is Parafernatorio. So not giving anything away. My living girlfriend has always been jealous of my dead girlfriend. She's haunted me for years, always in the same room, since the night I found her under my bed, thinking she was a monster. I'd stolen a ring from her dead body, and she'd come with it. We're just friends, I told Candy, from our bench beside Reflection Lake, south of the peak of Mount Rainier. We can't kiss or hold hands or anything. You would if you could, Candy said. Ever since my mom died, I've wanted to meet death. Skeleton in a white robe, death. The one that gathers spirits when people leave their bodies. I watch for death when I sneak into the funeral home in a suit I took off a body. I'd say stole, but stealing means someone still owned it. My dead girlfriend told me there was no them there anymore. I try to look sad walking past a stranger's casket, toward the snack table, the burnt coffee I love to hate, and the knockoff Oreos I hate to love. I saw death that day, not for the body on display, but for the elderly father of the deceased who had a heart attack in the bathroom. I had just opened the door when I saw Death's bony feet and robe beside the twitching body of the father of the corpse, on the floor of the big stall at the end. I heard faint choir music as I crawled under the locked door. The song probably from the funeral on the other side of the wall, silenced as Death closed her robe and with one bony finger touched the mirror above the sink in that large stall. Death disappeared into that mirror like a hallway. My dead girlfriend followed. My dead girlfriend got smaller, hurrying to catch up. I heard glass cracking with each step into it she took. Around the mirror frame, the glass started to splinter. The cracks worked their way towards her. I would have shouted, but if music could bleed through the wall, my voice certainly could too. I would have tapped on the glass, hoping she would hear me, but cracks tinkled at its edges and were quickly forming a tunnel of shards around the shrinking figures. I worried knocking on the glass might add only more. The cracks closed in, the unbroken portion the size of a vinyl record, then a plate, then a saucer. Worrying it might break through the middle and force my dead girlfriend to follow Death, even if she wasn't ready, I placed my hand over the center to absorb some shock. Still, the edges closed in, splitting under my hand until beads of my blood ran down along the maze of shatter. Death turned to my dead girlfriend. I lifted a finger, but my blood hid whatever might be seen under Death's hood. Soon, my dead girlfriend's face peeked out between my pointer and thumb. Then she vanished to appear behind me, reaching a ghostly hand to join mine against the glass, lacing her fingers between my own. I imagined warm, soft skin, but felt nothing. "We'll need this," she said, and with little drops of blood falling into the sink, she guided me to an edge of the center of the mirror, still unbroken. My fingertips plucked it from the rest, which shattered and tinkled across the bathroom floor. The calm drone and sobs beyond the walls were replaced by raised voices. I wrapped my hand in toilet paper and the shards of glass with a snowflake worth of sharp edges and paper towels. It was only the size of my dead girlfriend's palm. I slid it into a jacket pocket and pushed out of the bathroom door just before strangers rushed in. Stopping there.
That's fun.
Thanks.
So we didn't get fully to the place yet, but
No, we're right after this. We're at Reflection Lake.
yeah,
We're unlocking the mystery. Yeah,
that's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, Mount Rainier is definitely needed to be on the list. So
yeah.
And then Gigi, is that right? Is that how you pronounce it? Okay, good. And oh, by the way, it's getting rowdy in the comments, so I'm kind of bummed that you can't see this because this is enjoying. Somebody said that the trash goes to the abyss, and somebody else said, referring to the tree, that crazy that it could just get up and leave. So, and also very complimentary comments about all the stories. So it's been fun to see, and to see which little pieces that's the other thing I like about doing an anthology interview, is always seeing the little pieces that people choose to kind of as a teaser to make you irritated that they didn't read more so that you go buy the book. So it's always fun to see what people pick from, what pieces they pick from their stories. So that's great. So Gigi, you are our last reader, so please go ahead, and then I will kind of ask a question of the group. And
yeah, I actually didn't prepare anything to read.
oh, that's okay.
I sort of came to as the cover designer, which is the other thing I did.
Oh, yay!
And I just thought that there would be so many readers that maybe I could be sort of in the background.
No, that's totally fine. Maybe
I do have a story in the book.
So maybe just tell us a little bit about the story, and like what the location is and what your inspiration is, and then I want to ask you a question about the cover.
My story is called Bridge Walk, and it's about the Burnside Bridge.
Oh, fun.
Reading, I can just come right out and say that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, which was I was talking to Frances about cover design, and she just asked me if I would it would be okay to use a story that I had written for a different anthology called The Magic We Miss, which was put together and published by our interior designer for this book, um, Brian Parker, who is amazing and did a whole lot of really interesting stuff for the interior of the Muddy Goose Guide. Um, and so he and his wife Josie, they published a book called The Magic We Miss, which had my story in it, and it was also Pacific Northwest related, and Francis and Eric thought it could fit and asked if we could use it. So I let it leapfrog from one anthology to the other.
That's great. So, just out of curiosity, like you have it's a book, but it can be played as a game. So,
Yeah.
how did you think about, and I mean, I don't know the exact dimensions, but you can get an idea from you guys holding it up, like what the scale is. How did you think? Get spit out my cough drop. Um, how did you think about making it like big enough so that it can be read and it's accessible, but also like what were some of the challenges of thinking about a game board also being the cover?
It was hard. Like I'd never
Yeah.
done anything like that before, and we did actually make it larger than original, right? I don't remember what the end dimensions are, but I know that in the beginning it was going to be smaller, and I said we can't do it. We have to so many, you know, uh, game pieces, and and it was a big math problem, basically like a
Yeah.
geometrical problem of trying to figure out, because it wasn't just the spaces aren't just for the stories. There are ones that don't have story in them. I don't
Right.
know if that makes sense. I don't know, there are 51 pieces, I think, or places on the board, 51, 52, something like that. So it's a lot to fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had to try to figure out um, how to make it sort of the shape work. And then once I had the shape laid out, I got to go in and make a little piece for each story, which was super cool because I think as a writer, if you're given an extra something, a extra little sort of bell and whistle for your story, it's an extra personal thing for you. So I got to make a personal thing for each person, who had read.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess this is a question for you as a designer, but also Francis and Eric. Obviously, I haven't seen the book yet because I was sick and I didn't get to see it today. So, um, but how did you think about like you hear, oh, it's an adventure book and also a game and also fiction anthology. Like, what were some of the challenges of bringing those together? It sounds like Francis, you had already worked with that a little bit before in your previous book, but how do you bring game adventure guide and fiction anthology together so it feels like it all fits?
It's a really hard book design problem. I think
Yeah.
Eric and I had a lot of ideas to start. We had like, oh, we could do this, we can do this, we can do this. And then as we were building it out, it was like, okay, maybe we can't do that. Maybe we can do this. But for me, the interesting thing is that I used to play magazine games, and that's something that I'm working on too at my press. But, games used to be just cutting out pieces of paper, cereal box, and that was something a family could do for like $10. It wasn't this whole production of $100. And I love those games too. I have a
Yeah.
ton of
Yeah.
those in my house. But what I really wanted to do with the game component of it was make it so that people can play games. And not only play games, but play games that have such a long history in all of our history. The Royal Game of Goose is very popular in France and Germany. It's in Italy. There's a book that I bought, and Eric and I both have one, where it's like hundreds of different iterations of the Royal Game of Goose. So they just redid it each time. It was the goose, or it was the US presidents, it was the life cycle of the fetus before it was born. It was all sorts of things. And that shows me that the game mechanic of this particular board game survives centuries, right? It survives more than that. It's a very so the game was sort of the anchor, but then we had to talk. Eric was the one who was like, but if we make it Pacific Northwest, we make it our own. Okay, we have this game. It's got a lot of history. People know about it, but how do we make this game our game? And I think that's where the writing comes in, the locations. Everyone who worked on this book, Brian included, everybody is from the Northwest. Every single person.
And I think the other thing that struck me when you said you wrote about the Burnside Bridge is that they're all notable locations for one reason or another, but they're not all like the top tourist spots either. So it feels like you're getting something that maybe you wouldn't get from, a moon guide or a photos guide or whatever. Like it's a different take on um what is important or what is special about any particular place. A trash can that has a vacuum in it. I mean, I love that because it's notable, but it's also, kind of out of the
Yeah,
way, quirky, and it gets people to different places, I think,
it's a
they maybe
personal
would have
invitation.
otherwise.
Each contributor has basically given a personal invitation for the reader to explore a place that is important,
Yeah.
special to that contributor. And I always joke, I was like, we have all these geese and a goat. Like and so and so in our actual like game pieces for the game that Gigi designed as well, we have I don't know if you can see it, but we have all these
Oh
geese
yeah.
that you can, cut out and play with, but there's one goat because, we just need the goat.
Oh, you
The
have
goat,
to. The goat has to be a
the goat is
character.
there. The goat has to be there. And it's so much fun because there's so many geese, and then there's this like one square that just has this goat there. So it's so but that's what it is. It's it really does, I think, speak to the real like Northwest, like how we are. It's not
Yeah.
just like, oh,
Yeah.
let's go to this, you know, not just the smallest park in the world or something like that. Like these
Yeah.
are very
Yeah.
special locations for us. I don't know, Eric, if you have anything to add to that because we went back and forth quite a bit, and you added, you have stuff in there too that you added in to give it the flavor.
Yeah, no, it's just I'm a longtime resident of Oregon, and we have Oregon and Washington-based writers and creators, and some of the stuff that they're going to be bringing to this is going to be stuff that people have probably heard about, and then there's going to be stuff that even Oregonians and Washingtonians are not familiar with. And
Yeah.
I wanted us to make a book that celebrated our weird, eclectic Northwest, which, through the diversity of even just the stories that people read from, there was a concerted effort to be like, we're not just going to have serious stories, we're not just going to have funny stories, we're not just going to have any one particular style, we're not just going to have any one particular place, we're not going to be just urban, we're not just going to be the wilderness, we're going to go all over the place. And I think that
Yeah.
was incredibly important to me, and it's what made me want to do this project, was to show the diversity of everything around Oregon and Washington.
And
No, it's oh, go ahead. Sorry.
one of the things I like about it is that we have in the back, the little field thing where you can go to the location if you do go and then write your own, reflection on
Oh, that's
what
so
you
fun.
when you go there or warnings if you go to the
What cryptids did you discover?
what did you discover there? Where did the goat take you? And then
Is the
I
dead
think
girlfriend still there?
it's just still there. And then I guess Remy had something in the I don't know if you
Yeah,
wanted to
please.
say something.
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to kind of thank Francis and Eric for this opportunity because writing my story, I started with wanting to write about one of my favorite places, which is Forest Park, and the Witch's Castle is kind of on the trail there. And so it's a landmark I literally hike or run past all the time. It's about a mile and a half away from my home near downtown Portland. In creating this character who's going to go there, this Japanese American, I discovered that several blocks from me, and I kind of knew this, but didn't really know this in detail, was this historic Japan town. And it's easy to not know that because there's not a lot of evidence that existed. And so I it completely transformed my own personal relationship to the area that to my home, to the area that I live in. And so I think a lot of like Frank's journey is also me kind of coming to terms with we missed the part where he's going downtown to the places that are gone, and then goes into the forest. One more quick thing. I learned that in 1969, Ursula Gwynn had already was I think had recently moved to her house just a few houses away from Balch Canyon. And she had just written the word for world is forest. Um, and so I actually built in a cameo with Ursula Le Guin, which was a lot of fun as well.
That's very fun. Yeah, I think that's the other thing that I am appreciating just about the tiny little pieces that you all read is that there's you're writing a fiction story, but there's obviously some kind of personal connection, whether it was a place you went all the time or whether it was a place you hadn't been to, but you like deep dive and dove into it to learn about it. It's just, yeah, it's really fun because the heart of like the Pacific Northwest sort of personality really does come out in all the stories, which is very fun. I am super excited to get my hands on a copy. Sorry, but yeah, no, it's really fun and I really appreciate you all coming out and sharing tonight. So I'm excited to see it when I get back to work and excited to tell people about it. So, and now I'm thinking there needs to be like a part two because there's so many other cool places that we could do. So just putting that out there.
Well, there's more squares, There's more
Oh,
blank
see, yeah,
there's more blank
there we go.
squares.
Um, So I just want to do a little housekeeping as we wrap up tonight. Again, thank you all so much for being here, taking a little time to chat with us, and excited to have the book in the store. Um, for everybody who's watching, if you had fun tonight, we have another event scheduled not on Tuesday like normal, but on Monday of next week. Also an anthology that's just come out called Now I Have a Ray Gun, Ho Ho Ho. And Jesse Quack is the editor of that, and so it's a like a sci-fi holiday themed anthology. So a little bit different in tone, but also will be super fun to hang out with those authors. I think some of the people in these two books overlap, so that'll be fun too. Yeah, and I'm trying to think. I think that's really the only thing that we've got going on at the store in the next little while because it's December and we try not to plan things in December because things are crazy. But come and see us in the store. Come and grab a copy of the Muddy Goose. If you aren't near Vancouver, try to find it in your local store. There are so many amazing bookstores in Portland. Um, and I should ask you, Eric, is where can people find it if they're not like right near Vancouver? Are there other places in Portland that they can get it?
So we're slowly working on getting physical copies stocked outside of Portland. We're doing like a little bit of a stage release. So we'll have more events around Portland, and then we're gonna try to do some events up in Seattle. And as we get closer to the
Okay.
Seattle dates, I mean, it's gonna be Eric going on a road trip with boxes of
Yay!
books, which is both gonna be a tremendous amount of fun, but it's probably going to be shortly after the new year. But yeah, we're gonna get. Basically, my plan is to just go to bookstores and be like, hey, this is a great book. It's got local creators in it, and you want to put this in your window, and we'll see what we can work out.
That's awesome.
And the book is on
Yeah.
Ingram. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there
yeah,
somewhere they
if
can get it
you
online?
yeah, if you go online and you can get it. You can go on any bookstore.
Okay.
You can go to your local bookstore
I mean,
and
don't do
order it.
that, but if you need to,
You
because
can do
not
it,
everybody has access to places where it's gonna be. So
Yeah.
no shame if you have to do that, but if you got a choice of a local indie store, go there first. But if you
Mhm.
need to go online, that's cool too.
If you go to the indie bookstore, just have them order it and it'll
Yeah,
show
yeah,
up. And Eric and I will be at the Oregon Historical Society holiday cheer this weekend, so we will have copies there.
That is awesome. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, and have you a wonderful evening. And hopefully we'll see you all in the audience next week. I think people are inspired to go out on adventures now. So thank you. Thanks for everybody.